Hello, fellow Toastmasters. How are you?
You muted them. That was cruel.
Well, my name is Isidro Souza, and I'm the Program Quality Director of the District 107. And this is our first webinar slash workshop slash lecturer slash friends conversation for this edition of Winners Academy. And I'm so proud to firstly introduce Jessica, which is the coordinator for this edition. For those who don't know her, you should leave because Jessica is a global speaker. She was the champion of our district in 2022, and everybody knows Jessica. So if you don't know her, shame on you. So, Jessica, please, you are the host of this event. The floor is entirely yours. Thank
That's why we
you.
mute everyone, right? Then we can say the floor is entirely mine. Isidro was my coach for 3 years to get a really good speech, and I've always admired Isidro. And when he asked me to host this, I felt very honored because I thought, oh, I'm going to pick some of my favorite people. Of course, uh, the good democratic way to do it. Just pick the people that inspire you the most. So we're starting off with Cheryl, and as Josie says, Josie, are you able to unmute yourself? No?
Yeah, I am. Yes.
Can you say what you wrote on LinkedIn this morning about
Well, I was trying to be nice because sometimes I can say bloody good or brutally good. So I said she's beyond good. I was there, and I was really, really impressed. And believe me, I don't get impressed that easily. I mean, the energy, the facility, and the easiness in which she, intertwines ideas and emotion and makes people vibrate and stops and continues and takes the stage. The whole thing is a master.
And as a master, I've also seen many women
Yeah.
speak, and I've seen very few speak like Cheryl Wood does. And Josie and I and Simonetta were at the event at the Global Speakers University. That is her thing. That Cheryl brought about 25 women from the States and one man, Mr. Dr. Eric.
Yeah.
They all gave beautiful speeches, and we had a beautiful day with beautiful flowers, with all the women dressing up in red and yellow. And the locals were like, I wonder why they all love red. And then they told us it's because the flag of Spain.
Mhm.
And we were just blown away by the generosity and the beautifulness of your community. And I knew I wanted to have you inspire us. So I will do a little introduction after we do a small breakout room just to get to know each other thing, because this Winners Academy is designed for winners, right? And when we did in the 90s in America, we did 2 losers equal a winner. So you have to lose a lot of times before you become a winner. Yeah. So many of us have lost a lot of speech competitions. I'm sure Cheryl included before she became in the top 28 last year. Norberta was there. I was there. Isidro was there. The top row that you see here, we were all there and we saw you. Probably we didn't know we saw you, but we probably saw you at the World Championship. And so if I can, I'd love for us to go to a breakout room. Isidro, can you make a breakout room with 3 people? But I don't know if all these people with no cameras exist or if they're just here to name drop themselves. Merce, Laura, Claudia, Charles, Aina, are you here?
So that would be 6 rooms, right? If you
Yeah, but we don't want to put those people if they're not here in a room with people who are.
Okay.
We'll see what happens. If there's nobody in your room, guys, okay, Antonio's coming. If nobody's in your room, come back and we'll throw you to another room quickly for the no shows.
Yes.
Okay.
Open all rooms
Yeah.
in
Don't forget.
3.
No, they don't know what they're doing.
Okay.
When you get to the
Yes.
break room,
Yes.
guys, I want you to share, if I were on the world champion stage, what would my take-home message be? Huh? So each of you have about 30, 45 seconds to share what really you would share. This year, there was a guy, first guy who spoke, tall white dude, who went on stage and he talked about being saved by Jesus Christ. that guy committed. Yeah. That guy will never win, but that guy committed. So what would you commit to if you got onto the championship stage? Share that in the groups of 3 and we'll get you back here in like 2.5 minutes. Cool? Okay.
Yeah.
Now you can do the countdown.
On 3, 2, 1, go.
I'm going too. Cool. We can cut the rooms if you want.
Okay.
Okay.
I closed.
You
They're
know,
coming back.
no? Are you coming, Isidro, to the summit in Barcelona?
Of course.
Okay, Josie's giving a workshop. Hmm.
About what, Josie?
I said, Josie is me, by the way.
Yeah, your workshop is about what?
Oh God, is the neuroscience of achievement.
Oh, yeah, I love that.
But in 30 minutes, don't expect too much. Huh? 30 minutes is not that much. Okay. I cannot give you a lecture on neuroscience. So I decided that instead of that, I was going to do something very, very practical, interactive. So
Great,
lower
great.
your expectations.
Jessica,
Okay, welcome back. To see how impactful the message was, can you write in the chat box the one take-home message of your partner in the room? So I'm going to write Josie's in the chat box, and Josie's going to write mine. Margarita, you're going to write your partner's. Everyone has about 1 minute to write what they remember what the other person said. If you don't write anything, we won't judge you because we don't know who you were in a room with. So you can message everyone in the chat. What is their message? Oh, Kaya has to go. Oh, Kaya left. Building equality in the home. Love it. Don't be led by hate into hate. Inspire others to join Toastmasters. Bring the world into peace and joy, like Santa Claus. Gut heart, working to the world. Mission, PhD, want everyone to know how to conquer challenges. Pretty good. I'd say those are all pretty solid ones. Someone is waiting, always listening or watching. Always a stalker around. Someone who will love you. Great. Don't take life so serious. Oh, that's mine. Yeah. Don't take life so seriously. Let's begin. But there's some serious things here about Mrs. Cheryl Wood, because Cheryl Wood has been working for Cheryl Wood has taught communication skills to NASA. Anyone else in the room worked with NASA? My goodness, that's quite the achievement, and no doubt. Cheryl has been, I don't know when it was, but I remember in your story, I feel it was like 13 years ago when you left your corporate job and you decided to venture out into the world of inspiring people. I don't want to say women, but lots of the people I saw were women. And she's an expert in helping organizations reach the art of high impact communication, obviously to increase productivity, performance, collaboration, and trust. It can be about equipping leaders with influencer clarity, and she's lots of tools to do that. She's done that with USDA, Capital One, Prudential, EXIM, not sure what it is, but 4 letters, and United Nations and the FBI. Holy, that's amazing. I didn't read the last line, I did type it. So it is my honor to be able to introduce this lovely woman to you. And the topic today is about writing I'm allowed to say that, a great speech. It's a better title than that, but taking us through being an experience, not just words that come out of your mouth. A round of applause for Cheryl Wood. Woo, woo, woo.
Thank you. I can remember like it was yesterday, but it wasn't yesterday. It was September 18th, 2010. 15 years ago. I don't even think I feel that old, but I am. I remember walking into Morgan State University to be a speaker for the very first time. My heart was pounding. I felt like it was literally going to jump out of my chest. My palms were sweating. I couldn't even shake anybody's hand. I was so nervous. And all I kept thinking in the back of my mind was, why did you say yes? Especially when you're not a speaker and this was not on your path. So you thought. And then I reminded myself that sometimes opportunity only knocks once. And it's up to you to decide if you will answer. Well, I answered, nervous and all, questioning if I should have said yes, feeling like I was unworthy and unqualified, wondering if I was going to say the right word at the right time, or if somebody was going to stand up and protest and say, why is she on this stage? Those were all the emotions that were running through my mind. And then I actually took the stage and just reminded myself, Cheryl, just be authentically you. And with that, I surrendered to that moment. I surrendered to that opportunity and I started to speak. And there was something that happened. There was a switch that felt like it was turned on. And I felt like the words that I wasn't sure would come to mind were coming out the way that they needed to come out. No, not in perfection, but in a way that was authentic to me. And there was a fire that was lit inside of me. And I'll never forget, I remember midway through the speech, I stopped and I just took a look out into the room, into the audience that was filled with women. And I could see them with their pens in hand and their notepads taking copious notes. And I stopped for a moment and looked around and said, well, whose session are they taking notes from? Because I couldn't imagine it was mine. And I could even see a few women grabbing tissues out of their purses and trying to prevent tears from streaming down their faces because they were moved by what they were hearing. And what they were hearing was simply my story of being a woman, a wife, a mom who was running the corporate rat race at the time as a legal secretary, working a full-time job, but who desperately wanted more. I wanted freedom. I wanted time freedom. I wanted financial freedom. I wanted creative freedom. And the only way that I was ever going to get that freedom that I desired, to be able to walk my kids up to the school building at 9 in the morning, holding their hands and swinging arms. Okay, that never really happened. Let's just pretend it did, but they did not want me to hold their hand and swing their arms. The only way that was going to happen, that reality was going to come to fruition, is if I disrupted everything I had always known and always done and simply taken a risk. That stage was my big risk. And it even makes me a little emotional now because I can remember thinking after that day, this is what I was born to do. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life because I want to make people feel like that for the rest of my life. I'm Dr. Cheryl Wood. And for 14 years, I sat in corporate America as a legal secretary, wondering, wishing, waiting, hoping that something was going to change. And my life did change on September 18th, 2010, when I took that stage for the first time. And the rest, as they say, is history. I started speaking on as many stages as I possibly could. Anybody who would have me, I was saying yes. For an entire year, I spoke on stages, even when they asked for the parents to come to school and speak for career day. I was always a yes. I was always raising my hands because speaking ignited something inside of me, and I didn't want to let that go. It had a grip on me that I absolutely loved. Now, I didn't know over time that I would get to speak on platforms and stages like NASA, Prudential, Capital One, XM, which is Export Import Banks of the United States. I didn't know I was going to be a two-time TEDx speaker. I had no idea that was in the cards, and it would never have been in the cards had I not taken the risk. Now, fast forward to last year, I had no idea that I was going to join Toastmasters. And in my first year of Toastmasters, that not only was I going to end up as the president of the club I joined 1 month later, but that a few months later after that, I would be signed up for my very first speaker competition. I had never been in a speaker competition before last year. And yet, I let those folks, those Toastmaster people, convince me to sign up for the international speaking competition. And I won. I won at the club level. I was shocked. I didn't feel like, again, I was qualified. It took me all the way back 15 years ago when I felt like I wasn't qualified on that first stage. I sort of felt the same way when I came into the Toastmaster space. But I won club level, I won area level, I won division level, I won district level, and I made it out of 30,000 contestants all the way to the top 28 semifinals. And I was holding my breath just like I was that first time I took the stage. And it was an experience that I will never forget. And even though I didn't make it to the top 8, that's a goal I can aim for at another time. But it was a moment that I felt so proud of. Because if you know anything about Toastmasters, to all my Toastmasters, you know that Toastmasters has its own way. Let me explain what I mean by that, especially for those of you who are competing, you're considering competing, you have competed, you'll know exactly what I mean. What I mean is one of the most important things is to know your audience. So not only did I compete in the Toastmasters competition last year, I also competed in another competition. Literally, the finals of the competitions were 1 week apart. One was in Dallas, Texas, and the other one was in Anaheim, California. Well, Toastmasters, I wanted to make sure I was really prepared because I wanted to give every effort, every attempt that I could to make it to the main stage. And so I studied. I became a student. I paid for that on demand that Toastmasters offers, and I watched everybody's winning speeches. In fact, I watched the winning speeches for 8 years straight. I watched every person who won, I watched their speech. And I tried to dissect it as much as I could. I just wanted to be a good student and really give it my all, whether I won or not. Because what I've learned in this world is that when you take risks, sometimes you won't win, but you should still celebrate the fact that you took the risk. And not only did I watch all of the number one winners, the champions, I even went in and I watched all of the people who were in the semifinals. And I started to look what made that person make it from the semifinals to the world stage versus that person. And I watched all four, I believe it was, four of the groups multiple times. And what I learned, one of the main things I learned, and even in being there myself, is that Toastmasters prefers humor. Well, I don't feel like there's anything funny about what I have to say, but that didn't mean I wasn't going to give it a shot. And I learned, and it stretched me in a way that otherwise I wouldn't have been stretched because no one else on any other platform was requiring that I put humor into my speeches. It stretched me. And when you're being stretched, you're also growing. And so I took that and I implemented it. And I got all the way to the semifinals simply by being willing to get uncomfortable and doing something that doesn't feel like it comes to me naturally. Now, let me compare that competition to the other competition I competed in. The other competition I competed in was called North America's Greatest Speaker. And it was facilitated by a women's networking organization. It's an international organization. And I made it all the way to the top three. And then that week before I came to Toastmasters, I was on stage there in Dallas, Texas, competing. Y'all, can I tell you a secret? Is this thing on? I won first place. Hey, how about that? I won first place. But what Toastmasters was looking for was a little different than what the North America's Greatest Speaker was looking for. In the North America's Next Greatest Speaker competition, I shared the story about losing my nephew 5 years ago. He unfortunately lost his life tragically in a motorcycle crash. I pulled on the heartstrings of the women in the room. And it wasn't just doom and gloom. It was sharing with them that experience allowed me to have an awakening that life truly is short and it's precious. And if you're going to do the thing that you say you want to do, if you're going to do the thing that you feel called to do it today. Stop creating a to-do list and create a today list. That was my message. And I won first place. So my very first strategy, if you will, to each and every one of you is know your audience. Study and know what do most of the winners of the Toastmasters World Championships have in common? And have I been incorporating that as a part of my speeches, or do I need to take a deeper dive into certain areas? Maybe it is humor. Maybe it's audience engagement. Maybe it's your stage presence. But there is somewhere that you likely can make improvement in so that you will have a more likely chance to actually getting to the world champion and who knows, even winning first place. So what I'd like to do for the few minutes that I have about 15 minutes or so, is I want to share with you not only what I've learned from, yes, all the global stages that I've been blessed to speak on and how that's made me a better speaker that allowed me on my first try to get all the way to semifinals, but also I'm incorporating some of the things that I learned through the experience last year of being able to go all the way to the Toastmasters semifinals. The first thing I've learned, and that includes in Toastmasters, is that you've got to have clarity of message. So the thing that I understood is clarity isn't about me saying more, it's about me making what I say matter more. It's not about me saying more, it's about making what you say matter more. It's like the difference between giving a speech and people say, oh, that was a good speech, versus, wow, that moved me, that changed me, that transformed me in some way, that shifted my thinking. And so there are three questions that I always ask myself when I'm preparing, whether it's for a speech on a stage or it's a competition. Number one, what is my crystal clear message? And I mean, strip it down to one big idea that you want the judges, who are a part of the audience, so the judges and the audience to remember. Both of the TEDx talks that I've given, TEDx requires that you have one core idea. So as you're practicing for what you're going to do in these competitions and with Toastmasters, it's also preparing you for the other stages and platforms that you're likely going to be speaking on. So if you cannot summarize your big idea in a sentence, guess what? Your audience won't be able to either, and neither will the judges. So, for example, start thinking about what is my big idea. I love that Jessica had us to do that activity because some of us, we were a little more wordy than others. And so we have to stop and say, okay, wait, how do I frame that into one simple sentence? I've been blessed to be coached by one of the world's greatest speakers, Les Brown, and he always says the most impactful speakers are those who learn how to say it in less words. So I would challenge you and dare you even to take the big idea and ask yourself, can I frame it into one simple sentence? It might sound like this. My big idea is that confidence is a decision, not a feeling. Or maybe my big idea is you can't inspire the world if you're afraid to be seen. Both of those are simple ideas that can be turned into an unforgettable speech that move minds and move hearts. So again, what is the one big idea? Get crystal clear on that. The clearer you are on the message, the deeper it's going to land in the room. Number two question I ask, why does it matter? Why does it matter? So you want to tie your message to perhaps something that's happening in the world landscape of things. Maybe it's a certain trend that's happening. Maybe it's a fear that has fallen across this certain organization or group or community that you're speaking to. In this instance, speakers and leaders. Maybe it's a certain transition that's happening in the world, but you want to make your message feel timely. That it doesn't matter when someone hears this, it feels timely and it feels relevant. So why does this message even matter? Is there something specific that's happening right now that makes it that much more relatable? And then the third question I ask myself is, what do I want this room to experience as a result of hearing this message? And usually as speakers, we have like one of three goals. We either want people to think differently after they hear our message, we want them to feel deeply, or we want them to act decisively. Think differently, feel deeply, or act decisively. What is your primary goal? Because every speech that we give should have some level of transformation connected to it. I'm shifting the way people think. I'm shifting their thought process or perspective on something. Or I am truly pulling at their heartstrings and allowing them to feel this emotion or this thing, this thought, this idea so deeply that perhaps they do want to create change or pivot or shift, or I want them to take some specific action when they leave here today. And that's the important part that comes after that is what is your clear call to action as a part of the speech? Something that feels like anybody in that room can start doing it immediately because momentum and motivation fade over time. So if you give them a call to action and something that they're actually implementing and doing now, they're taking steps and they're having longevity as a result of what they heard you present. So the first thing is always just clarity of message, making sure I'm crystal clear on what the message is, because that message is going to be the through line. And you'll notice that if you go back and watch any of the speeches, whether it's from this year's winner, last year's winner, like one of the ones that really stood out for me, I will never forget the speech, was Jocelyn Tyson. And she had all of the right elements as a part of that speech, but the title was simply, "Have you been there?" That was literally her through line from everything that she shared as she was going through her experience and sharing her story. The question still came back to you, the audience, because, and you can write this down if you like, your story and your message is always about you, but it's not for you. That's what I always remember. Yes, Cheryl, it's about you because you went through the experience, whatever the experience is that you're sharing, but it's not for you because at the end of the day, it's what does the audience get to gain from that? What do they get to take away from that? How do they get to experience some level of betterment in their own lives as a result of hearing your story? It's almost like we often say in the industry, the WIIFM, what's in it for me? That's always on the audience's mind. Okay, great. I heard your story. It made me feel this way. It made me cry, or it made me happy, or it made me laugh. But before you get off of that stage, how does it impact me and how do I use it? So you want to make sure you have that clarity and that you give them that call to action. The second thing that I always make sure that I work on and I'm very intentional about is confident stage presence, because that matters on any stage, but especially on a stage where you are competing. The judges don't just score you on words first, they score you on presence. Stage presence is like a bridge between your preparation and their perception. So the first thing that matters is how you actually enter the stage or step onto the stage. You've got to walk in that room with purpose, not apology, not acting like you're already defeated and you're not going to be the winner. No, you need to step out there as if you are going to be the winner. Speak it into existence. And that means your shoulders can't be shrugged over and your head hung down, or and you also want to avoid having a feeling, a look that makes you feel like you look nervous. Anybody ever seen somebody and they just look nervous and you're like, I'm not sure if he or she is nervous or if they have to go to the bathroom. I'm just not sure what's happening here. But you can see it all over their facial expressions and even in their body language. So you want to make sure that not only do you practice the words that you're going to say for the speech, the story and all the other elements, but how you're first going to step onto that stage. And so you want to, my recommendation, this is what I did in every stage of that competition. When I walked on the stage, I was confident, not arrogant, but confident. I made sure I had control of my breathing, because sometimes we get that heavy breathing and that's, it's just nervousness, but nervousness is energy. So we can redirect that energy. Take those long, full breaths. Sometimes you do a 4-4-6. You breathe in and then you slowly breathe that out. You hold it for 4, breathe in for 4, hold it for 4, blow out 6. You can do that to calm your breathing down. And then you want to pause. Like, how many of you have ever seen someone step on stage and instantly they go into the speech? It's like, well, wait, I haven't even started the timer yet. Or wait, I was getting myself ready for, because we're used to people who are experts and are winners. I love that. How did you do the winners? Jessica, they're going to pause for a moment, not too long. You're going to plant yourself firmly in that starting space, and you're going to breathe, and you're going to own the silence that falls across that Toastmasters audience before you go into your speech. And the audience and the judges should feel like, as a result of that, they should feel like, wow, he or she really belongs on that stage. They are owning that stage. And then you begin. So number one, make sure you monitor your entrance and that first stance before you ever say a word. Number two, once you begin speaking, you want to make sure that your movement is intentional. Now, I always say to my clients, you don't want to be wailing and flailing from one end of the stage to the other end of the stage, and it's like we're watching a tennis match. Sometimes speakers are like, okay, wait, she's here, and then they're there, and then he's there, and then... No, because now I'm just dizzy. I want to be fully fixed on you and fixated on you, but that's gonna exhaust the audience if it's like they're watching a tennis match. So you want to use movement like it's punctuation. So if I start in the center and I go over to the right or the left side of the stage and I plant myself, it's almost like me putting a period in that particular part of the speech. I stop for a moment and I ground myself again in this new spot. And also, what that does is it shows that I'm paying attention to every part of the room so that everybody feels important. Even the way that you gesture, and we'll talk about this in a couple of minutes, gesturing, but even the way you gesture, your movement in terms of your face and your hand, you want people all the way in the back to feel like I see you too. And I'm talking to you as well. I'm not only talking to the people who are on the front row. I'm not only talking to the judges. I'm talking to every person in this room. And sometimes your gesture, if you elongate your arm or your hand and your eyes follow that, that will indicate to the people way in the back, I see you. You're a part of this conversation. And that just, it's like wrapping a warm blanket around everyone in the audience to say you're all a part of this. It's not just for the people who are here up close and in front. So movement is a big part of the experience that the audience gets. Too much movement looks like nervous energy, which looks like you're not in control and you don't have ownership of. But too little movement looks like you're stiff, you're rigid, and it becomes less enjoyable for the audience. So you also want to use stillness when you're delivering really key points. There's almost this, it's like a dance. I call it a dance, where it's when I'm moving forward and I'm stepping towards the front of the stage, towards the audience, it's like conviction. It's literally like I am stepping forward because I want to tell you something important and I need you to lean in with me. But then if I step back, that stepping back is almost like it's reflective. It's revealing. And I am reflecting on perhaps something that has happened. So I'm going almost like I'm stepping a little bit back into the past to recall a thought, recall an idea, recall a moment in time. But then when I step forward, it's that conviction that's coming through. The thing that you want to avoid is what we call the nervous two-step. The two-step pacing, you're stepping from side to side. It's like, okay, are you about to do a line dance? We don't want to do that. We want to, and that's why you have to practice, 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 practice. When I won last year when I made it to the semifinals, I everything was about that speech. I mean, when I tell you I poured all of me into it, I practice every day, probably 10, 15 times a day. I practiced in the car. I practiced in front of my husband and my 3 kids. I made them sit on the couch and listen, and I made them give me feedback. And then I even connected with international Toastmasters groups because I knew I was going to be speaking in front of an international audience. And just like I said at the beginning of this, you've got to know your audience. So I wanted to make sure the words that I was using, the movements that I was using, the gestures were appropriate for an audience in South Africa, for an audience in Brazil, for an audience in Spain or Canada. And so I literally was taking all of my days, anytime I had free time, I was signing up to speak and practice that speech in front of an international Toastmasters group or club, not just local, because that matters. And there were some really great feedback that I received as a result of getting international feedback. The third thing is to think about energy transfer. So stage presence isn't just like a performance. I know we hear that sometimes. You're not a performer. It's not performance energy. It's transferable belief. It's something that you believe in so much. You have a conviction about so much that you want everybody in that room to know about it. You are transferring the energy of that comes with your belief in what you're sharing, which is why it's so important that you choose that message very, very carefully and cautiously so that it really just, my own words are, it oozes out of you. It's not something that's forced. It's not something that feels fake. It's not something that seems like you're just performing. You're not a performer. You're transferring your belief in something to the audience to say, here's this idea that I believe in so much that I wanted to come to this big stage and share it with you. And I want you to think of energy really in 3 layers. There's physical energy, there's vocal energy, and there's emotional energy. So physical energy is that movement that we were talking about. It's your posture when you first step out on the stage. That's your physical energy. Then there's your vocal energy. That's your vocal modulation, your volume, your tone, your pace, your pitching, even your pauses, because now you're allowing silence and stillness to come across the room. You're allowing perhaps a thought or an idea that you shared to really settle in, or maybe a story that you just finished sharing to land deeply on the hearts of those who are there listening, including the judges. And then the emotional energy, that's the heart and the passion behind the words that you're expressing. Number four, make sure that you close powerfully as a part of your stage presence. So don't just mope off the stage. You want to make sure that you exit with your, again, standing upright, strong, confident, close just as strongly with that same stance as you did when you opened. So we don't want to fizzle out at the end of the speech. We want to have just as much of a climax at the end, if not more, than we did in the beginning. All right, let's move on. Number three, storytelling. Such an important part. And I always share with all of my clients, and I'm sure we've all heard this because we're a part of Toastmasters, that one of the biggest parts of storytelling for it to truly land is to show the story, not just tell the story. So I could have gotten on when Jessica introduced me, and I could have just said, "Hey guys, I'm so excited to be here. And you know what? Let me just tell you about my first speaking engagement. It was on September 18th, 2010. It was at Morgan State University. I was so nervous, but I did it. I went up there and I made it through it. Woohoo, I'm here today." Well, there's no emotion in that. There's no feeling in that. There's nothing in that. I might as well have just picked up a book and start reading to you, because that's what it sounds like. So you don't ever want your story to come across as though you are reading somebody else's story from a book. You want people to connect to that story, to feel the emotion. I hope when I shared that story earlier, you could feel my heart. I hope when I had the moment where I actually got a little emotional, you could feel that, and maybe even feel the little choke in my throat, because it brought back memories that are beautiful memories of how far I've come in this journey from where I started from. And that's what you want. You want people to feel it deeply. So storytelling at the end of the day is really your competitive advantage in competition and on stage. The story is the heartbeat. It is, if there is no story, I'm not even really sure why you're on stage, because really everything else that you're going to share, the idea, we could probably find it somewhere else. There's nothing new under the sun. It's just us adding our special sauce to an idea or our perspective. But any bullet point that you can give on a stage or a platform, people can probably find in a book, or they can find through ChatGPT now, or they can find online. The story is the edge. It's the advantage. It's the heartbeat. And so judges and audiences might and probably likely will forget what you said. I think we've all heard that quote by Maya Angelou, that people will forget what you said and they will forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And that's what storytelling does. It builds trust. It triggers emotions. Sometimes it's unexpected emotions. It helps your audience to see themselves in you by you sharing your story. So number one, remember that the story must have a purpose. Whatever story you choose as a part of that speech or that competition, it must have a real purpose. It has to be relevant. So you want to ask yourself, how does this story, not just does this story serve my message, but how? You need to make sure that is a clear connection. And that's why it's important that you have people externally to be able to hear and listen. And that's why it's important that you practice so that they can give you feedback. Because I don't know if you've ever heard this expression, but you cannot be the picture and the frame. You know, like a picture frame, you're going to be one or the other. You can't be both. You can't be the picture and the frame on the outside. So that means you need someone external looking in who is able to give you perspective on whether or not that story really is landing. I'll share this with you really quickly. Again, I was so serious. I was putting everything in to being a part of that competition. I hired a prior world champion for coaching. because I wanted to make sure that I could get as far as I can in that competition. And if I was a little funnier and add a little more humor, I probably would have made it to the doggone world stage. So this year I'm going to work on being funnier. But I hired one of the world, Verity Price. I'll be very specific. And I hired her, and we worked together on the cadence that I needed to have, and the fact that I wanted to make sure that my story connected no matter what race or nationality was in the room or what part of the world someone might be from. And so your story needs to have that level of connectivity on a human to human level. And so every story should either illustrate a point, a truth, it should reveal some type of transformation, or it should inspire an action. The second thing is, again, this is just re-emphasizing, you want to make sure that it's relatable. Can my audience see themselves in the story? When you do that, that's a home run. And then also number 3, don't just tell, show. So you want to use sensory language, vivid imagery. Can you create, I call it narrative transport, where even though the audience was not there, they can see it in their mind's eye as if they were there when the thing was happening. I'm hoping that you could see yourself on the stage with me when I took that first stage and I was saying, oh my God, why did I say yes? I'm hoping that you could visually create or paint a picture in your mind of what that looked like because of the way that I created that sensory. So can you tap into the 5 senses, or as many of the senses as possible as a part of that story, your sight and sound and touch and smell? So instead of me saying, oh, I got on that stage and I was nervous, what did I say? I said, my heart was pounding. It felt like it was going to jump out of my chest. That's a lot different than I was so nervous, which I was nervous, but I want to create it visually in your mind for you to really, it to captivate you how nervous I was. What else did I say? I didn't just say I'm nervous. I said my palms were sweating so profusely, I couldn't even shake anybody's hands. So that's how you want to spend time really hashing out, how do I bring this to life? And then you want to paint scenes that let the audience experience that moment. A few other things, and then I'll wrap up because I know I'm coming to the end of time and I want to be respectful of your time. The next thing, number 4, is don't be afraid of vulnerability. It is truly the gateway to connection with the judges and connection in that room. The audience, again, connects to your humanity, which means vulnerability is a must. Now, there has to be this fine balance between not oversharing, but also sharing enough that it's relative and it's relatable and it's timely. But you don't want to overshare and share so much that it becomes a distraction from the core message. That goes right back to the number 1, which is what is my crystal clear message? You don't want to distract or detract from that. And so it really is a fine balance of, as we say in the industry, cutting away the fat and only leaving the meat. And that means I don't need I don't need no fat on my steak. You can keep that. Just give me the meat. That's all I want. And some A1 steak sauce. Right? So only give them what they must have, what they must consume, what they must digest to really get the grasp of the point that you are making by telling that story. And always remember this, people will remember and repeat stories, not bullet points. I've never taken a stage for a competition or a big organization or a Fortune 500 company. I've never taken a stage and had anyone come running down to me. Maybe I'm in a room and I'm talking to 3,000 people. I've never had anybody come running down to the stage saying, oh my God, Dr. Cheryl, your bullet point number 3 just blew me away. I'll never be the same. Y'all, in 15 years, I've never had that happen, ever. But you know what I have had happen? After a competition, or even after a speech on a big stage and in front of 3,000 people, I've had someone come running down to the front. They can't wait to meet me. And they say, Dr. Cheryl, I had to meet you because you were telling my story. I know there are 3,000 people here, but you were talking to me. That means I was vulnerable enough to not only reveal the big me, like that's okay, that's nice. That's good that people know what your success is because that's credibility when you speak, but they also need to know not only what are your wins, but what were your wounds? What were the trials? What did you have to press through to get here? When were the times when you fell flat on your face and you weren't sure you were going to be able to get back up? That vulnerability is priceless. So you want to make sure that you balance the two. And then last but not least, also make sure that you consider the way that you transition from your talking points into the story and then out of the story into the remainder of the speech or the presentation. So you want to move in and out of the stories smoothly. You don't want to have these abrupt shifts that feel like, okay, now I stopped and I'm finished telling the story. Okay, now I'm going to tell you this. Now I'm going to go back to something else. I'm sorry, I didn't expect that to pop up. I'm on a call. Sorry, that's my hubby. And so you want to make sure that you are transitioning smoothly, right? And that means saying something to the effect of some type of phrase. Let's say after you're done telling the story. You might come with a bridging phrase that sounds like, yeah, I tell you a story and say, so that moment taught me that. That's a bridging phrase. That's a smooth transition. Not it felt like you told the story and then you put a period and now you want to start at something completely new. No, it should be a smooth continuation. Or maybe it could say you shared that and I got on that stage and I realized that I wanted to, and that's what I said earlier. And after that speaking engagement on September 18th, 2010, I realized that was the moment I realized that I wanted to do that for the rest of my life because I wanted to make people feel that way, hopeful for the rest of my life. Or here's what that experience reminded me. It reminded me that dot, 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 whatever your dot, dot, dot is. So I'm going to end there because I believe I'm out of time. And again, I'm very, very respectful of time, but I just want to challenge you to keep challenging you. I want to challenge you to keep challenging you. If you're thinking about getting into the competition or advancing to into the next level of the competition, be a student, study, make sure you're clear about your message, make sure you're clear about your story and the impact that it's going to make. And definitely, if you're going to compete in Toastmasters, make sure you get some funny up in you before you take that stage. I'm done. Thank you so much.
We loved it.
Awesome.
No PowerPoint and still memorable with only 3. Woo, that was an explosion of claps. It's amazing. Great. Thank you for respecting time. Us in Spain, we take time very seriously. Portugal even more. So thank you very much for that. I'd like to respect your time because today is your coaching day. You have a call right afterwards. So I'm going to put in the chat box your LinkedIn. Those of you who love Cheryl can connect with her on LinkedIn. She's on Facebook. She's throwing a lot of good content on there as well, maybe even more than LinkedIn. I see both of them happening. If there's anything you want to share about an upcoming event or some kind of a program that you're working on, this is your last minute to do so, and then we'll kiss you goodbye.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. Thank you for coordinating this. I appreciate it. It's always a pleasure to pour and share. If you can't tell, I love, love, love this work. So I'm just so grateful to be here. I am literally 8 days away from my annual conference called SpeakerCon. And the great thing is this year it is all virtual. So, and it's free. It's virtual and it's free. So any of you who would like to participate, you can participate from anywhere in the world. We can drop the link there. It's speakerconconference2025.com. And literally, it's going to be hosted through the Zoom events platform. So it'll look similar to this, but there's some little fancy things in the background that it does and vendor booths and stuff like that. But I would love to have you there. I'll be speaking, I'll be pouring, but not only me, I have a host of dynamic speakers, communicators, leaders who are going to be speaking. We're going to be talking about everything from AI to branding, growing your brand, your business, selling, all the things. And it's across 3 days, November 6th through the 9th. So it's next Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I'm on a countdown because I'm barely getting any sleep. I'm just, working my little heart out, just trying to get ready for it. So I'm going to type the thing here, SpeakerCon Conference 2025.com. There we go. SpeakerCon. Like Comic-Con. Are y'all familiar with Comic-Con?
We've seen
Oh, there's like Yeah, Comic-Con, Cookie Con, T-shirt. There's a con for everything. So I figure, why not have a speaker con? This is my seventh annual conference. We normally do it in person, but this year I've had so much. I'm writing a new book. I have my new book coming out the first week of December. I'm so excited about that. So yeah, so I would love to have you guys join us for the conference if you have time. You can drop in as you have time, come in for 30 minutes, an hour, whatever, and that's it. Thank
That's
you.
generous. Thank you. From my side, thank you very much. I'll pass it back to Isidro, but we'll let you go because in case your call is exactly right now, and we'll let Isidro tell us about the upcoming ones, or do you want me to do that, Isidro? Oh, I can do it. You can do it. I don't know. Is that how he sounds? You're on mute, Isidro.
Mike Isidro.
You're on mute, Isidro. Your voice.
Boy, I was thanking Dr. Cheryl Wood for coming. A lot of insights for our potential candidates, and it was amazing. So, Jessica, do you want to announce the next guest, or do you want me to do it?
You do it.
Okay, I will share my screen with you.
Okay. Oh, you were hoping I say you do it.
We'll share my screen with you. Can you see my screen?
Almost. Yes. I see.
Okay. On the 11th of this month, we will have John Zimmer. For those who are new to Toastmaster, John Zimmer was 9 times the European champion of public speaking. And I was lucky enough to be coached by him when I reached the final in 2021. He was the coach of Sabi, the current world champion of public speaking. So if you want to become the next world champion of public speaking, John Zimmer can help you. So I hope you can join us on the 11th, and we will have a wonderful session just like this one.